it is time to actually create your pitch. And I'm also going to suggest that during this step, you also want to create a press kit. And I'll talk to you and tell you a little bit about what that is. We've talked about it before, but I'll remind you here. So, first and foremost, as you start to work on this pitch, I want you to remember one thing. Your goal is to make the podcast host's life easier. You want to make it easy for them to book you as a guest, to want to book you as a guest. So all the things that I will talk about are angled towards making the host's life easier. First off, in this pitch, you're going to focus it down into 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, you want to take I'm looking for a podcast that talks to lawyers about building trust, growing all those sorts of things. So my sentence might be something like this. I'm looking for a podcast that talks to lawyers about building trust with potential clients through content marketing. You'll notice what I did there is I opened it up from not just podcast marketing, I opened it up to content marketing. And I'm focusing it, right? So I'm not talking about growing the business. I'm not looking for systematizing podcasts. This individual pitch is for podcasts that talk about content marketing with lawyers, building trust with potential clients, all those things in this one pitch sentence. Now you're going to write the email that you're going to send to these potential hosts that you want to be on their show. So you want to include the following things. First off, you need to show that you are interested in their show. Okay? Put it on while Angie suggested this, just start playing the podcast while you are writing this pitch. Listen to it. Try to understand, do you fit as an expert? Would you be a good guest on this show? Okay. Then compliment them. Like, listen to a specific episode. If there was something that you liked, compliment them. Okay. Now, I say you got to show authentic interest because I can't tell you like how many times I get pitch emails from people wanting, they're pitching a guest to be on my podcast where they have no clue what my podcast is about. They just are bragging about this person and telling me all the wonderful things they have done and how they would be a great guest to talk about this thing that is totally unrelated to my podcast. Sometimes they even get my name wrong. It's really that bad. So if you compliment them on something that you enjoyed and then tell them why you'd be a good guest, tell them why you would fit on their show. Okay. Why would it work for you to be on their show? And then look for an opportunity. Okay. If they talked about your topic last week, don't pitch that show. Okay. Have they covered your topic recently? Think about those types of things. Have they covered topics that are all around your expert topic and not yours yet? Look for those types of opportunities. Then you want to include a short bio. Okay, and this is a half a sentence that drops really quickly all the most amazing things about you. Okay, all the awards, all the accomplishments, the big social proof names of clients you've worked with, things like that. So for me, that short bio is, I say something like, having helped clients such as Salesforce, LinkedIn, the John Maxwell team, Mike Kim, and the DeJulius Group create and grow podcasts with over 20 million downloads that build brand loyalty. As the founder of Emerald City Productions, Danny Osmond would be a good guest because he can talk about this, like that type of thing. Or I would be a good guest because you're writing it from your perspective. So then you have to share with them the topic or the episode that you want to do with them, the discussion you want to have. So to figure this out, think about what are the common questions you get all the time? Okay, what do you answer all the time? What do people want to know from you that they come to you for? Maybe there are talks or presentations you've been giving recently that you might be able to cover in an episode. And you also could talk about ways to work with you, and look for topics that would convince people to want to work with you. That's what I was trying to say there. Find topics that would make people want to work with you. And you might just want to talk about latest news, interesting things that are going on in your area of expertise, something like that. Then you have to figure out how to turn that topic into an episode title. Okay, whether it's a how-to episode, an episode about mindset, whatever. So I might take my topic of lawyers building trust and say, how lawyers can build trust with potential clients through podcasting. That's how I turned my topic into a title. Then you want to put forward maybe sample questions that the interviewer can ask you, or talking points. So my points might be my journey to developing a podcast agency that works with law firms, how to build relationship of trust with a listener, who is the average podcast listener, how to convert client leads through episode content, how to repurpose content to save time. Those might be my points, or the questions they can ask me about. Now, you want to share the result for the listener. Okay? You want to give them, what is the listener going to take away? What are they going to have at the end of the interview? So for me, I might say, ideally, your listeners will walk away from this episode having learned how a podcast can benefit their firm and knowing the steps to take to begin. Okay? Knowing the steps to take to begin. So that's the takeaway. That's what they're going to go away with. And then you can have, here's some just bonus ideas. I talked about a press kit, okay, whether it's on your website or whether it's a PDF that you attach. You want to have all these things in there. Not only a longer bio, you want to have your headshot, maybe that they can download. You'll have your episode title. You'll have those questions that you just developed, but then include all of your links to your website, to your social media. I even put a button on my press kit where they can book a time with me so they can access my schedule if they'd prefer to do that. One of the other amazing things that Angie mentioned when she was talking about this is to share recent interviews you've done. You can go on Spotify and create a playlist of all the interviews that you've done on different podcasts so that they can hear whether you are a good interview or not. And then, some people may not like this, but you can review their show. Like if you really loved it, write a review for their show and then share a screenshot in this email to show them that you took the time to sit down and write a review and post it on Apple Podcasts or wherever for their show. That can show you that you actually care and you're taking time. So now it is time to pitch and actually send the email. So how do you find the shows? How do you connect with them? And how do you be successful? So to find shows, first you want to start with people you know. Okay, make it easier on yourself. Who do you know that has a podcast you could go on as a guest that makes sense? Start there so that if you've never been on a podcast as a guest before, you can build up some interviews and you can get those things listed on a playlist so that you can share them. Then the next thing is just to take that topic that you created or that one sentence pitch that you created and pop it into Google and search for podcasts that talk to lawyers about building trust, etc. Go into Apple Podcasts, same thing. Use that phrase, look for the podcasts. Then you need to vet the results, okay? You don't want to try and go on a show that hasn't released an episode in 6 months, okay? Are they current, right? Are they consistent? Did they, release an episode last week, but then it was 3 weeks before that they had an episode, and then it was 2 months, there was a gap, and they did 4 episodes. You want consistency because consistent podcasts have audiences. And then, of course, check, do they have guests? If they don't have guests, don't go on their show, okay? And then just track all this information. Write it down. You can put it in a spreadsheet. Keep track of when you pitched them, how you pitched them, all those things, the link, when you want to follow up with them, all that sort of stuff. Then it's time to send the email. You put this all in an email. You customize it to the show. You address them by name. You check and double check. Remember, I told you, like all the time I get pitch emails that make no sense of why they're sending me an email. They have the wrong name, or they're putting someone, asking someone to go on my show that makes no sense. And then you just want to plan to follow up with them and take care of them when you actually get booked on a show. You want to talk about how you're going to share things and how you're going to participate. Some bonus tips, ways to do this even better. Well, first of all, you can search for larger audiences and pitch shows with larger audiences. That will help you out. Easy way to do that is go into Apple Podcasts, go to the category that you're looking in and look for the top 200 podcasts and just start pitching those podcasts. And again, follow all of the rules about be authentic, fill in the pitch, all the things that we're talking about. But go to Apple's top 200 and do this. You can join podcaster communities, and I'll mention a few of those in a second, and I'll list them in the show notes. You can also get professional help. Okay, I've already mentioned Angie Trueblood, and Angie is the best, but I'm going to share one other source as well, because there's varying degrees of cost involved in getting someone to help pitch you for podcasts. So some of the communities that I like are Audrey, Podcast Guests, Podmatch, and Perfect Podcast Guests. And I'll share those URLs. And then the professionals, I mentioned Angie, her company is called the Podwise Group, Wise with a Z. I'll again put that link in the show notes. And Interview Connections. I've heard some other people having pretty good experiences recently with Interview Connections. Now, finally, you've done your pitch. You want to be a successful guest. Okay, so how do you do that? Like I said, you talk to them about how you can share their stuff. When is it going to be released? But even before that, you want to prepare for your interview. I mean, if you can come to your interview with questions that you could ask the host, that will show them how much you're interested in their show. Okay, so you want to be prepared. And then finally, mention your stuff. Okay, if you have a download, a lead magnet, a resource that people can get, mention that. If you have an episode of your own podcast that you think would be a good follow-up to an answer that you had in a question, mention that episode. Try to borrow the audience and get them back to your show. So you want to be a successful guest. That's how to tie a nice bow on this. And why does it work? It goes back to all those things that we've talked about every time we've talked about why podcasting works. It's the relationship, it's the trust, it's all those things. But you got to get started. Okay. So just try these things. Start sending pitches out. You'll get better with each one. And I would love to hear your experiences with this. Now, I did do this talk recently as a presentation. So I have some slides that have this information in them, and I would love for you to grab them. You can get these slides. Again, I'll put the URL in the show notes. You can get them at DannyOsmond.com/mastermind2022. DannyOsmond.com/mastermind2022. And so I hope this helps. I want to hear about it. I also want to make an announcement. This episode is airing on November the 2nd. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking a break from the podcast for the rest of the year. And we'll see whether we start back up in January 2023, but I'm going to take November and December off from the podcast. I'm still around. You can still reach me on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can join my email list. In fact, if you just downloaded those slides, you're getting on my email list. I'll still be doing LinkedIn Lives occasionally. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I would love to help you out. So thank you again for sticking with me. And the best thing you can do is to share this episode, share the last episode, the first part as well. Share with family, friends, colleagues, anybody like that. And if you can review the podcast, that would help as well. So thanks again, and I will see you in the new year.